Imagine waking up one morning and realizing your savings don't buy what they used to, not because of a crash, it's not because of some sudden crisis, but because the rules quietly changed while the world wasn't looking. Behind the polished marble walls of central banks, behind closed-door meetings and classified economic models, the most powerful financial institutions on Earth have been preparing something that sounds almost unthinkable: a controlled wealth reset. Not chaos, not collapse, not revolution, but a managed reboot of the global financial system designed to redistribute value, reprice assets, and restructure power without triggering panic. This is the story of how they're doing it, why they're doing it, and how the reset has already begun. To understand the reset, you must first understand the world's financial engine, why it's running out of road. For decades, the foundation of global prosperity relied on four things: cheap credit, endless borrowing, central bank intervention, and asset price inflation. The result? Stock markets soared. Housing prices doubled, then tripled. Debt piles became mountains, and entire economies were built on money that didn't truly exist. But this system created a dangerous imbalance. The richest 1% grew astronomically wealthier, while the middle class drowned in debt and savers watched their money shrink. Central banks knew this trajectory was unsustainable. They could either let the system collapse naturally or reset it gradually, strategically, and quietly. They chose the latter. If you look closely, the hints started appearing long before the world noticed. First, the silent global gold accumulation. For decades, Western central banks mocked gold as a barbaric relic. Then, they started buying. China's gold reserves surged. Russia stockpiled aggressively. India ramped up purchases. Even European banks reversed decades of gold selling. Why the sudden obsession? Because gold is the one asset that survives every financial reset. It's not a sign of panic. It's a sign of planning. Second, the worldwide pivot to CBDCs. Over 90% of central banks are now developing central bank digital currencies. These aren't cryptocurrencies. They're digital tools with extraordinary abilities to track every transaction, program expiration dates, control spending categories, prevent bank runs, and freeze wallets at will. In other words, a currency built for transition. You can't run a modern wealth reset using physical cash. Digital tools make the process seamless. Third, aggressive interest rate manipulation. Rates were slashed to zero, then raised rapidly, then adjusted again. This wasn't random. This was stress testing the system. The central banks needed to know how much debt households can survive, how much strain banks can absorb, and how markets react under sudden pressure. Every move was a probe, a test, a preview of what's coming. By the early 2020s, global debt reached a level no one could pay back, not this century, not the next. Governments faced a brutal truth. There is more debt in the world than money. A reset became inevitable. So central banks began building a blueprint, a framework for resetting the system without triggering riots, panic, or financial Armageddon. The blueprint consisted of 4 pillars. Pillar 1. Inflate away the old system. Inflation became a deliberate tool. By printing more currency, governments reduce the real value of old debts. Your money buys less. Your savings weaken. Your debt becomes easier to repay. Inflation doesn't just raise prices, it rebalances who owns what. This is not a fluke, it's part of the design. Pillar 2. Reprice assets to match the new reality. During a reset, housing bubbles deflate, stocks correct, currencies shift, and commodities rise. This isn't destruction, it's recalibration. A way to bring asset values back to earth without wiping them out entirely. Pillar 3. Introduce digital controls. A reset only works if there's control over capital flows. Tax evasion, offshore wealth, sudden withdrawals, and market manipulation. CBDCs give central banks the ability to manage the transition like surgeons, not firefighters. And Pillar 4. Shift the global monetary order itself. The reset isn't just about national currencies, it's global. We are moving toward digital reserve assets, gold-backed settlement systems, energy-based trade currency blocks, and multipolar financial power. This is the end of single currency dominance. Hey, and the beginning of something new. A controlled wealth reset isn't one event. It's a series of coordinated phases. Phase 1 is controlled inflation. The silent phase: prices rise, savings shrink. Debts become manageable. People complain, but society continues. This phase is already underway. Phase 2 is currency modernization, the public phase. Governments will announce, "We are rolling out a digital currency to modernize our economy." But beneath the wording is the real purpose: transition control. Expect spending limits, transaction monitoring, the phase-out of physical cash, instant taxation, and withdrawal restrictions. The reset becomes easier once money becomes programmable. Phase 3 is asset rebalancing, the shock phase. This is the turbulent period. Markets reprice, real estate corrects, debt gets restructured, and weak banks merge or fail. Governments will step in with stability programs. The public will see this as a crisis, but central banks will see it as surgery. Necessary, painful, temporary. Phase 4 is the new financial order, the launch phase. A global meeting like Bretton Woods in 1944 will set the new rules, new currency settlement systems, new valuation standards, new trade structures, and new reserve asset mixes. The world enters a fresh monetary era. Old wealth structures dissolve, new ones emerge. So, who wins and who loses? The winners will be the owners of real assets: land, gold, resources, and productive businesses. These survive every reset. Low-debt individuals, people with minimal liabilities, will adapt easily. Those who adopt technology early, understanding digital money, will have an advantage. And innovators and skilled professionals, those who can create value, will thrive in the new system. The losers? Cash-heavy savers. Inflation eats their wealth. Digital restrictions limit their options. High-debt households will face rising costs and shrinking wages. Traditional investors will find old models stop working, and middle-class earners will see their purchasing power decline unless they adapt fast. But the biggest loser? Anyone who thinks things will go back to normal. Resets don't restore the past. They create a new normal. Once the dust settles, the world will feel different, unfamiliar at first, but stable. Expect faster global transactions, programmable wages and benefits, tighter regulations, more transparency, less privacy, lower inequality, and more controlled economies. The world won't be freer, but it will be more manageable. For central banks, this is not chaos, it's renewal. A reset is not an ending, it is a reboot. Central banks are not plotting destruction. They're preparing for a future the old system can't handle. The reset is not a conspiracy, it's a necessity. The signs are everywhere: gold accumulation, digital currencies, debt restructuring, and market corrections. The question is simple: will you prepare for the reset? Or will you wait until the reset prepares you? Because the change isn't coming. It has already started.